Warren presents Warren's Horror Stories. Season 2, Episode 8. One night, Warren is at his aunt's house to come over to have fun with Willie. He and Willie were watching a horror movie, which Warren secretly suggested. This scared Willie, and thought he was going to get bad nightmares tonight. When they were done watching the movie, they went to Willie's room, and got under the blankets. Warren thought it would be funny if he scared Willie. So he turned off the lights, and told Willie that he will have to listen to scary stories, and he cannot get up from the blankets, or a bloody monster will get him from the dark. Willie understood what the game planned, so Warren got started with his first scary story he is about to tell. Warren says his first story is about his cousin Brandon, who is walking in the woods one night, and a scary monster is following him. As he starts running, he finds a shelter, and went inside to hide from the monster, but the monster finds him anyways, and shrinks him to a little person. The monster picks him up, and goes to the kitchen, only to cut him in half with the knife. Brandon suffers from pain, and the monster makes a hamburger for Warren, and outs Brandon in it. The hamburger is then served to Warren for him to eat, and Brandon dies after being eaten by him. When Warren was finished telling his story, he could tell that Willie was using his imagination while hearing the story, which terrified him, so Warren wanted to keep going. He then told Willie his next spooky story, which is about the kids at his school, who are going on a field trip, but a creepy killer starts to follow them. The killer drives past them, and the bus driver stopped the bus. The killer came out with an axe, and the killer then kills the kids and the bus driver before driving off. Now this time, Willie was freaked out and wanted to get up from the blankets, but he was quickly stopped by Warren. Warren says he is not done yet, so Willie continued to listen to his next scary story. The next story was about Warren's cousin Jenny. She was swimming in a lake during one summer, but unbeknownst to her, a shark was roaming around her presence. As Jenny put sunscreen on her, the sunscreen turns to ice cream, so when she got in the ocean, the shark bit her because it tasted good. Jenny screamed in horror, but the shark already eats her flesh, and she dies. When Warren was done telling the scary story, he lied to Willie, saying that Jenny was rude, and she got bitten by a shark, and that is how she died in real life. As he laughed about it, Willie was horrified. Warren then started to tell his next scary story, which is called Kindergarten. One day, it was a school day, and all the kids were eating at lunch. While they were eating, Warren himself poured poison in their food while the teachers were not looking. So, when it was class time, all the children turned into monsters, and had very sharp teeth. They ate all their teachers, and went to kill other adults in the school. Warren noticed how progressive Willie's fear has gotten, and he liked the fact that Willie has a vision of his scary stories whenever he is telling one. When Warren was about to tell his next scary story, they heard some rumbling. Warren knew it was probably his aunt, but he told Willie that it was the bloody monster, and they have to keep hidden under the blankets or they will die. Warren then continued on with his next scary story, called Warren's Hell Ride. It begins with many families and kids going to a scary tunnel ride of hell. As they ride through the tunnel, a grim reaper pops out of nowhere and slashes a guy's arm off. Everybody is scared to death, and as the ride continued, some people were trying to get out. Everybody dies except for 5 people. In the end of the story, the 5 remaining people get slaughtered and thrown into the lava, and they end up going to hell. After that story was finished, Warren went on with his next story, which starts with his dad waking up in Warren's favorite video game. His dad tries to act safe, as he has 4 hearts left. When his dad drives a racing car, he fails to win, and falls in a ditch. So now he had 3 hearts left. When he got back up, he saw that many cars were driving on the road, not giving him a chance to cross the street, so he decides that he will try to cross the street and pass vehicles. Unfortunately, he gets hit by a truck, and loses a heart, leaving him with 2 more hearts left. His dad then goes to work but is fired from his boss, and after that, his wife kicks him out, giving him 1 more heart left. Warren's dad ends up sleeping in his broken car, but is later attacked by a lurking creature, and he dies with 0 hearts. When Warren was done with the story, Willie said he is tired, but Warren tells him there are more stories to tell. However, Willie starts to drift off, so Warren told him that if he goes to sleep, he will have a bad dream, and the monsters still get him. This is enough to scare Willie, so he decides to listen to him. The next scary story Warren is going to tell is about a spooky Halloween night, which starts off with him and his cousins, Veronica, Manevly, and Willie. As they went house to house, a scary candy monster follows them, but only they can see it, nobody else. As they kept walking, they find blood everywhere, and realize that all the kids who were trick-or-treating have been murdered. All of a sudden, the candy monster came running up to them, so they ran their separate ways. Veronica gets killed off, and Manevly went to knock on someone else's door so the owner would let her in, but when the door opened, it turns out to be a haunted house, and she gets dragged inside. Warren and Willie sees this, so they go in there to get Manevly back. As Warren was telling his scary story, he noticed that Willie was sleeping, which angered him, so Warren woke him up by shaking him, and told him that the bloody monster is going to get him if he does not stay awake. Willie listens carefully as he resumes telling his horror story. When he and Willie enters the haunted house, they both suddenly heard a person screaming, and assumed it was Manevly. As they followed where the echo was coming from, ghosts started to block their way, but managed to enter a room, where they find Manevly being trapped in a cage, and she was forced to eat the candy that was taken from the other trick-or-treaters. Warren and Willie then dumped out their bags of candy, and Warren shoved the bag around the candy monster's head, while Willie grabs the key to unlock the cage, prompting Manevly's escape. Warren and Willie kills the candy monster, and when they both leave the haunted house, they find Manevly's dead corpse laying on the porch. Willie was freaked out near the end of Warren's scary story. He thought they were somewhat real, but Warren tells him that it's made up, but that the monsters are only real if he gets out from the blankets. Willie says he wants to hear a nice story, not something creepy. Warren is annoyed, but agrees. Warren thought he could drop some black on the kid-friendly story by adding thriller to it, so he told his next story, called Fairy Tale Funhouse. Starting off as a normal day, Warren's mom gives Warren a kiss before she goes out to have fun with her sister. Suddenly, she comes towards a house that is made up of candy. Warren's mommy is thrilled about it, and mommy started eating the house made of confectionaries. But then, the candy girl comes out, and Warren's mommy hides. Unfortunately, she is then caught by the candy guy, and she is plundered with a sharp candy cane, and she spits blood from her mouth. As blood splatters everywhere, she is eventually killed. Willie was upset with how horribly the story translated into, but Warren says that it is a part of the game plan, and he should stay calm and quiet or the monster will hear him. Warren started telling his next scary story, but right at that moment, someone turned the lights on. It turned out to be Willie's mother, Vertica, who was just taking some old clothes to put in the garage, and they pretend to be asleep. When Vertica left the room with the lights turned back off, Warren was angered that he interrupted his story, so Warren told Willie that the next story's victim is about Willie's mommy, Vertica. One stormy and dark night, Vertica is walking while being stalked by a boogeyman at her house. She finds the boogeyman lurking inside, and she is scared, so she grabs a knife and tries to eliminate the intruder, but the boogeyman takes it from her using string force, and stabs her to death. When Willie asks what happened next, Warren says that the boogeyman went to kill the people that he himself, Warren, hates, and that the boogeyman is his friend. Willie felt uncomfortable by what he just said, but Warren tells him that there is one more scary story he has to tell, and it will be even more scary. As Willie listens, Warren tells him a horror story about a killer, who is Warren himself. One night, he sees his school bully, whose name is George, and he is sleeping in his bedroom. He kills George and his family, and after he killing them, he gets powerful, and turns himself into a giant, only to destroy the city. He stomps on people, killing them as blood splatters on the ground, and after killing everybody in the whole world, he shunks back to normal to do whatever he wants, like hanging all the dead bodies in his bedroom. When Warren was finished telling his last scary, Willie is petrified, so Warren uses this opportunity to scare him by yelling at him, saying that there is a monster coming to get them. Willie screams in horror, and starts crying. Willie's mom hears this, and goes to his room to see what was going on. When she is told that Warren has been telling him scary stories, she tells Warren to go sleep in the living room, so Willie can sleep in peace. As Warren lays in the couch in the living room, he secretly watches horror movies, wishing to be a killer like any other villains. The end.